Wat 'n voorreg om te kan gesels met Joan Armatrading. Kyk, as jy saam met haar groot geword het, dis net ongelooflik om te dink jy kan met haar gesels. So, this morning, Joan Anita Barbara Armatrading. A big welcome, Joan.
Thank you, and thank you for saying all my names.
and it was just so fascinating. Born St. Kitts and Nevis, the smallest sovereign state in the Western Hemisphere. It's really a privilege to be chatting to you. And I want to start just in a time we're living with COVID. Just your opinion, how is it going with you and this whole pandemic?
Well, in terms of my work, I'm very, very lucky because I kind of do everything. So I don't need somebody else in the studio with me. I'm the writer, the arranger, the producer, the engineer. I play everything. So literally on all these albums that you've heard for a very long time, it's just me, literally. So in terms of COVID, that hasn't affected how I work. I started writing this album January before COVID and then just carried on as I would normally. So that part wasn't affected. But of course, as with the rest of the world, every other part was affected. Like you couldn't just go and get some shopping if you wanted. That had to be a planned exercise. You couldn't just go to a restaurant. You couldn't just go and meet friends. And the whole atmosphere of what was happening was always there, even when you were in your house. You can feel that something is very different. So it's changed a lot. And I think it's changed it where some of the changes won't ever go back to how they used to be. And I think that's something that you would expect from certain very dramatic happenings, you know, like First World War, Second World War, Industrial Revolution, all different things that happen that are significant bring about a change that you just don't go back to where you were. You don't go back to square one. And it's just a new way of being from now on, I think, in a lot of areas.
I'm glad you mentioned the instruments because I don't think a lot of people in South Africa realize that you play all the instruments on your albums. And I think the only other artist I know of that's doing that, I think was a bit of Prince Moby, but also Lenny Kravitz. And for me, it was fascinating. Started playing piano. Your mother bought it as a piece of furniture. But just the balance between rock, folk, jazz, blues, soul, reggae. If you have to choose one, and I'm going to ask you later about your rock album because we're waiting for it. What is your favorite genre?
All of them.
All of them.
That's the answer. That's why I write so many different things, because I like all of those different genres. And yes, you're right. People will hear different albums and won't realize that I'm the only one playing on them. They will also hear certain songs with lead guitar and they won't realize it's me. They'll think it's somebody else. I remember the record company at one point had a focus group and there's a song of mine called Lost the Love, and it has though I said myself, a great guitar solo, and they played that to the focus group. And they said, who is it? And they named every other guitarist you could think of except me. Not one person named me.
That's amazing. And then you said you once said, people who like my music have a legitimate interest in me, but I need to retain some privacy, not telling people what's going on or what I feel. When you go home, the reason it's beautiful, because it's personal to you and the people you want to include in it. So can I make history and change that and ask, how's it going at home? But you can say no.
No, you can't. You can't make history. But what I say to people is, if you think about it, as you know, you have 10 friends. Do you tell all of those 10 friends exactly the same bit of information? No, you don't. You'll tell your best friend a certain amount, and then you'll tell the person who's more of an acquaintance a certain amount. You don't tell them exactly the same bit of information. So I think as a person who is known by a lot of people, why should I tell everybody everything and not retain something? It seems unnatural to me. That doesn't seem right. So I'm quite happy for people to think I'm weird and whatever they think. I'm quite happy with that, as long as I can keep the privacy that I want to keep.
Yeah, beautiful. And then once you said your songs are mostly love songs, but as an observer, and it's a lot not your experience. But now I want to find out, as all of us gets older, how do you perceive love and falling in love? Are we going to stay teenagers forever?
No, we don't. No, I'm 70, and whatever age I am, that's the age I am. And I very often hear people saying, at this age, 70, or even at 30, 40, they say, oh, I feel like I'm 16. I think, how is that possible? It's not possible to feel 16 at 30 or 25 at 17. It's not possible. So you have different experiences of being whatever that age is. So every age will bring you a different way of thinking and being. So I'm just me growing up. I know myself to be a certain way, and I stay a certain way. But the knowledge of certain things is different. You know, the experience of certain things is different, and you just have to be in the moment. So I'm a very kind of now person. I think you just have to be in the moment. I don't know if I've answered the question, but that's my answer.
No, you definitely answered it. Just to tell you, on repeat in my car now is from the album Not So Far Away 2018, Always in My Dreams. And it's just amazing. For me, it's such a touching song. Before we get to consequences, in 74, I was born in 1974, and you appeared on the cover of iconic women's lip magazine, Spare Rib. You know, and you said something about black women don't sing pretty because they haven't been brainwashed into being weak. But so my question is, if you could choose something to be an activist for, what would that be at this stage?
I'm not an activist really. I don't know if that's a cop out, but there are certain people that they have a calling for certain things and they're able to dedicate themselves to it, and they're able to draw people in. You want people who are passionate about a certain topic that will stay with it, because you need this stickability to make certain things happen. You know, when you look at the suffragettes and people like that, or you look at Nelson Mandela, you know, you want to be somebody who really sticks to this thing that they're trying to achieve, and no matter what happens, they're going to get that thing brought about. So you need that kind of person. The person that I am is a songwriter. I'm a songwriter. I'm great at looking at things, observing it, and in 3 minutes writing as concisely as I can what is happening at that moment. That's my skill. Somebody else's skill is being a great cook. Somebody else's skill is having the brains to kind of, you know, get you to the moon. My skill is not being an activist and motivating people to do certain things. My skill is writing songs and hopefully being able to allow people to have an emotional attachment and be able to use those words and those songs to communicate to people something that they've been trying to express themselves, that they haven't been able to find quite the right words, and this song does that. That's where that's my thing.
Joan, I've got a couple more questions, so just stay where you are. More than one kind of love. Oh, I was sidetracked. Dit gebeur as jy met Joan Armatrading gesels, en ons gaan aan met ons gesels. Joan, welcome back. That's just one fantastic song.
Now, right?
And I want to talk quickly. We're going to get to consequences now. But you ran the New York Marathon age 57, and you musical success. I mean, so many Grammy nominations, Brit Award nominations, honorary doctorates, even from the West Indies, where you know, as your childhood, and England, all over the world. But you said, despite your phenomenal music success, your biggest, proudest achievement is your BA in history from the Open University. How important still is education to you?
It's very important. I've always wanted to have a degree, and up until I got my degree in 2001, and I worked for that degree. I took every single exam that you needed to take and passed to be able to get the degree. So I'm really incredibly proud of that. But education is really important. Education it's a freedom thing. It allows you to. It gives you knowledge. It's knowledge. It allows you to know certain things that when you know them, they could be life-saving. You know, they could be things that could propel you to better jobs, better friendships, if you like. Education is a very, very powerful thing. What I found interesting about doing the Open University degree was that as a writer, I write whatever I want. I write whatever I want, whenever I want, whatever length I want, however I want, whatever. I can chop and change. When you do a degree, you're forced to write a certain amount of words. So when the essay comes, that essay's got to be 1,000 words, whatever the number is. That's it. You don't go under it or over it. You've got to write it in a certain speech pattern. That's how you have to do it. You have to deliver that essay by a certain date. If you're late or whatever, so it forces you to, or forced me, because I'm used to being, I'm very disciplined, but I'm used to being free. I can do whatever I want. This was very restrictive, and I found that really, really interesting to have to work to this confinement. It was quite different, but I enjoyed it. It was good. I really liked it. And the very final exam that I did, I can't remember which country I was coming from, but I literally got off the plane, drove to the exam room, did my exam, and went home. It was like, wow, come off a massive tour, drive to do an exam, and then go home. Yeah.
And now my big question, when are we going to see the rock album? I hope you're working on it.
Well, the rock, I kind of have done a rock album, maybe not as heavy rock as people would think in terms of a rock album, but I did a trilogy. So I did a blues, a rock, and a jazz. So you've got Into the Blues, This Charming Life, that's the rock, and Starlight, that's the jazz. So the trilogy was done, and I set out to do a trilogy 2007, so it's 2007, 10 and 12, I think it is. And, there was I did an interview with somebody who asked me what kind of music I like, and I said I liked everything, including heavy metal, and they said, oh, are you going to do a heavy metal record? And so now I keep hearing that I'm going to do a heavy metal record. I never said I would, but, you never know. I won't rule it out.
I'm waiting for that one. And now Consequences, I was so curious, and there's only 2 songs released so far. I was like, where's the rest? And it's going to be released 18th of June.
Yes.
I can't ask your favorite track of the album, but just the motivation behind Consequences and what's special to the album to you.
Well, I'm always talking about consequences. Consequences is something that I talk about all the time, because every action has a reaction. And, sometimes you'll do something very, very innocent, like making a cup of tea. And because of certain things that happen during making that cup of tea, you might find that instead of just making a cup of tea, you're off to the accident ward or something, So the song is talking about the consequence of this couple thinking about what they say to each other, because depending on what they say and how they act, they'll either stay together or they'll part. And in the song it says, maybe we should do this and blow the consequences. But, that's something that we're kind of doing all the time. The pandemic, that's a consequence. That's a consequence of something or someone making this happen. The consequence is huge. We now have a worldwide situation where a lot of people have been restricted from their normal life by this, whatever this act was, because we don't know. We don't know if it was somebody eating something or an experiment gone wrong, or we don't know. It would be quite nice to know exactly what it was, but that's a big consequence there.
And now, on the 31st of July, global live stream, the exclusive global live stream, where can people tune into that, and how does it work?
It works by going to, probably the easiest thing is to go to my website, and you'll see the link there that will take you to where you need to go, and you just buy your ticket, and then you'll see the show. And the show will be, well, you'll see the show on the 31st of July. You won't see it before then. And the show will be lots of old songs, but also lots of new songs as well. So you'll see, you don't see More Than One Kind of Love, but you will see True Love, and you'll see Down to Zero, Drop the Pilot, Willow, things like that. But you'll also see and hear Already There and Natural Rhythm and different things on the new album. So I'm very excited, and there's something very strange. I love Drop the Pilot, and I've always liked playing it, but for some reason, on this particular outing of playing live, I'm absolutely loving Drop the Pilot. It feels like it's such a joyous song. I mean, I knew it was an uplifting song, but I've suddenly decided it's really joyous, and I get probably the most excited when it gets to Drop the Pilot. So, yeah, I'm hoping everybody comes to see the concert, sitting in your front room. That's pretty cool as well. Sit in your front room and watching this show.
Mm. So you're so spoiled in England. With all the different kind of radio stations, and sometimes I hate commercial radio stations because they're still just playing Drop the Pilot and More Than One Kind of Love. And I hope this interview will motivate people to go listen to the other 20 albums and the rest of your music. Thank you for your time. It was such a privilege. I'm definitely going to tune in on the 31st of July. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
En dit was Joan Armatrading, wat lekker om met haar te gesels. En as jy nou nuuskierig is, gaan soek daai liedjie Always in My Dreams. Dit sal jou weer verlief maak op die lewe.